But I grew up in Calgary, Alberta, and on the western side of Canada. So everybody here thinks I should speak French, and I don't. The really sad part of all that is my mom's side of the family was French and spoke French. So, but I never did pick up the language. I'm learning now that I've come to Spain that, quite frankly, I suck at languages. Anyway, from Calgary, I lived in Toronto for a few years. I lived in Vancouver for a few years. My family was not a travel family. Like, we did some camping. We would go to BC. We'd go to Saskatchewan next door for family reunions and stuff. But my mom and dad never left the country, something I never even really thought about. And then in 2000, my next door neighbor, she said, I'm going to Italy. Do you want to come with me in 2001? And I'm like, what? Europe? Okay. So I went with her and another lady. They were both about 20 years older than me. And we're all staying in the same hotel room together. And I realized that it's going to be a long 2 weeks because the other lady snored like a trucker. Like, they're going, what the hell have I got myself into? So that was my first experience in Italy. And so if I have any recommendation, it's be careful who you travel with and know them and know their idiosyncrasies, know what they like and don't like. They were both very into photography and I wasn't. But as it turned out, the way I ended up traveling was so far from solo is unbelievable because I worked for a nonprofit music organization that taught adults how to play wind instrument or sing in a choir. And I was their executive assistant. So we took 93 people over to Germany, Austria, and the Czech Republic. So my job was to book all the flights, the hotel accommodations, meals, concerts. I had to organize rehearsals, like everything. And from 2001 up until 2015, every year or every other year, I was taking a group traveling overseas. We've been to China, we've been to Cuba, we've been all over Germany, we've been to Poland, Hungary, Czech Republic, we've been to Scotland. And the smallest group I had was 50 some, and the largest group was 110. So that's kind of how I got it started traveling. So I was always with groups. Now, you have to understand, I'm not this big, like in Canada, I was one of those, I'm the second oldest child, the oldest daughter, so I'm a caregiver. I looked after people. I made sure everybody was okay. I didn't have this big adventurous bone in my body other than doing these trips with the groups and stuff like that. For me to kind of just decide to get rid of it all and do this was a major deal. Everybody was like, what? And I'm like, I know, hey. So I kept saying I'm going to live in Europe one day. And I was trying to decide actually between Prague and Valencia. And the reason I chose those two places is because I knew somebody in each place from my trips. I had a house that I adored. I always said that they would have to bury me in the backyard because I was never leaving it. And I decided that I wanted to do this. So I spent that whole year gearing myself up, taking my TOEFL course, knowing I'm going to Valencia. I decided instead of teaching, I decided to go as a student. So I applied for a student visa and found the school that they sent me all the paperwork. I got my visa, my student visa, sent away for my student visa, got that. June rolls around, and then all of a sudden it's real. Like, I have to start selling my house. I hadn't done anything yet. I have to sell my house. I have to sell everything I own because I left September 4th, 2016. So I finished working at the end of June. So July and August were two of the most emotional months of my life. Every time somebody even looked at me, I started crying. I'm there like, Jackie, oh my God, no. And they're like, well, why are you doing this if you're so sad? I said, I'm sad to be leaving my friends and family. I'm not sad to not be doing my adventure, right? But I swear to God, every time somebody looked at me, I started to cry. And it was just so different from anything I had ever experienced. I spent a lot of time walking around, getting to know Valencia. Although I'd been there for a visit the app Meetup was my saving grace, because I got to know a lot of people through Meetup. You can go on hikes, you can go for tapas, you can, anything you can think of, you can do. So that's how I met almost all my friends, was through Meetup. And now I meet them other locations and places. But it was a tough few months trying to get myself settled and thinking, what the hell have I done? Like, seriously? It's only going to be for 1 year, like all that for 1 year, right? But I got here, and about 4 months in, I realized I wasn't leaving. I wasn't going back to Canada. So I look back now and think, I can't believe I did it. And I can't believe now, going on 3 years, that I didn't go back, that I didn't run back to Canada, because it hasn't been all sunshine and roses, right? There's a lot of loneliness. There's a lot of mistakes that you make, especially when you don't understand the language, trying to deal with the government here. Well, in Spain especially, because everything is on a very different time frame. It's very slow. It doesn't move very fast. When you're used to being in Canada, like, you want to get something done, you go and do it, right? But I had met a Belgium guy in Valencia, and we kind of were dating. And so I went home to Canada for a few months. And then when I came back to Europe, I went to Belgium, and I spent a year in Belgium with him. And so, but in the meantime, while I'm here, I'm traveling. I've gone to Morocco a couple times. I've gone to Thailand a couple times. You see other places, Bulgaria, France. I wouldn't recommend doing what I did, unless you're that type of person. Like, don't sell everything you own and go. What a lot of women do, and what I would recommend, if you're married and you want to maybe just do a solo trip on your own, maybe your husband doesn't like to travel and you just want, or you're recently widowed, or you're recently divorced and you've never done a solo trip, do something small to start with. Even in your own country, go someplace you've never been in your own country. Maybe it's a long weekend, maybe it's a week, maybe it's an all-inclusive where you don't have to think too much about what you're doing, but you're still there by yourself. You still have to eat dinner by yourself. You still have to go do some exploring by yourself, but it's not, you don't have to organize everything. Your accommodations are there, that you don't have to worry about food. You just kind of have to show up if it's an all-inclusive. But if you're a little more adventurous than that, but you don't want to leave the country yet, then just pick a place you've never been and want to go, and organize your trip that way. And it doesn't have to be anything elaborate. It could be, maybe you want to go to the next city because they have a wonderful live show you want to see, and you go spend the weekend and go to this live show, or there's a concert you want to do, or there's a festival you want to go to. Before I left Canada, because I had never really eaten dinner by myself in a restaurant before, I practiced. I went to restaurants by myself and ordered dinner, because I always felt it was weird to go to dinner by yourself. So I did that. I went and practiced having dinner by myself, or just sitting at the bar, talking to the bartender, having a drink. I practiced all that before I left Canada, because I thought, I'm going to have to do it. So might as well get used to it. There's certain places I know I shouldn't go, so I don't after dark, right? And if I am, then I take precautions. I always let somebody know. Even now, I phone friends. Okay, I'm going here, I'm doing this. If you don't hear from me, kind of thing. Like, I always let somebody kind of know where I am and what I'm doing. And that's one of the reasons, people think I post on Facebook just to kind of rub it in their faces that I've left Canada and having this great life. But it's not just that. I post on Facebook so people know where I am. And a lot of people know where I am. And my friends know more details, but my Facebook friends have a general idea of where I am and what I'm doing and where I'm going. And I use that as a safety for me to document where I am publicly. Some people might want to do that, but because I'm here solo, I do. And I look at the countries I'm interested in going, and there's some countries I'm interested in going, but I won't, because there might be a bit of conflict that I'm not comfortable with. So I stay away. I went to Morocco, and everybody's like, "Ooh, you shouldn't go to Morocco." So the first trip I went to Morocco, I did it as a tour. I booked a tour. And I was there for 2 weeks in December, and loved it. Fell in love with Morocco, and realized very quickly that you could do this as a solo woman. Although people recommend you don't, you absolutely could do it as a solo woman. So So I do one day want to do the Trans-Siberian train between, I want to go through and do that from Russia to China. I do want to do that eventually, and I would like to do that on my own. I recently just bought a backpack because, so if something's happening, your hands are free and you're able to do that. I also bought, they have security purses, so purses that you can't cut the straps. So I have those so that, and they go across me. So again, my hands are free. I want my hands free. And I like the fact that they can't cut the bag off of me. So I have that. And then I just bought those little containers that you can buy for your credit cards that can't be scanned with those machines that they have. I do that every time I go get money out of a bank machine. I grab the thing and I pull on it to make sure it's not one of those fake ones, right? Because I'm always pulling on those things to make sure it's not a fake one. And then I'm aware, but that's my personality anyway. Because when I had the groups, you always had to be looking around to see what was happening and where people were. So I'm aware of my surroundings. I see the people around me. I see what's going on around me. So I'm always aware of where I am and what I'm doing. And have I gotten myself lost sometimes? Absolutely, I have. You know, it comes with the territory. I haven't gotten into any situations where I've been afraid or frightened or confronted. I've had nothing. I've not been robbed. None of that kind of stuff. But and I think it's only because of luck, and because I'm taking precautions. You have to, you know, when you travel, you don't travel with all your cash in the same spot. You don't travel with all your credit cards together. You know, you have to make sure your passport is protected. The minute you take your passport out in public is the minute you're asking for trouble, I think. Once you've cleared customs, once you've given it to the hotel if they require it, it does not need to be seen again. Don't carry everything in the same location. I continue to keep my relationships up there. I have some wonderful friends that I'm not prepared to let go of. So we continue to talk. I'm trying to convince some of them to come and visit me. And yeah, almost every day I'm talking to somebody from Canada. Be open to whatever comes your way. Be open to try new things and experience new foods and places and people. And now my group of friends are from all over the world that I hang with, right? And I'm not afraid to, somebody says, hey, let's go here. Okay, let's try it. You know, unless it requires me falling out of an airplane with a parachute on, I'm not prepared to do that. I'm not prepared to, you know, do a bungee jump or anything like that. I'm not that adventurous. But short of that, I'm happy to kind of try anything and do anything. And somebody says, let's go here. Okay, let's go. So the one thing I've realized is people hesitate to travel because they don't speak the language. You don't have to speak the language. You know, you get by. Google Translate has been my best friend. And at one point I was having this argument with this guy, Google Translate, and he's Google translating, and we just started to laugh because it was ridiculous, you know, like it was just a comedy show. But having said that, I managed to get all my renovations done. For women who want to travel specifically, and older women who want to travel, a lot of women's travel groups on Facebook. Just search them and join a travel Facebook group, because they're always offering tips and tricks. And if there's a country you want to go to, you can Google it and say, you know, ask a specific question. How safe was it? Did you feel safe? What did you do? Can you recommend a restaurant? Can you recommend a hotel? Did you have a guide, a private guide? Can you give me the guide's name? That type of stuff. So I highly recommend finding groups that you can join to ask specific questions about specific countries.